Welcome to the Sci-Fi Center, the place to be, where comic books and wrestling collide magically. Movies, TV shows, and pop culture we share. Get ready to rock, we're here to take you there. From superheroes to aliens in outer space, we've got the latest news and reviews in our embrace. Turn on your screen, let the neon lights glow. We'll take you back to the 80s. Let's rock and roll. Sci-Fi Center, where the legends come alive. Get ready to geek out, let your imagination fly. We're diving into the past with a touch of modern flair. Sci-Fi Center, the ultimate pop culture lair.
Happy Sunday. How's everybody doing? Welcome to the Sci-Fi Center Presents our Sunday night weekend wrap-up. This is the show that we cover any loose ends that we didn't cover over the few days that we were streaming this weekend. Most of what I wanted to talk about, I got off my chest last night. I mean, we went long. We went actually half hour long. I don't feel we watched. Oh, by the way, I had to take that trailer down. Apparently the Amazon is having people are having an issue. And I forgot all about that when I did the Spider-Nord trailer. It got the whole stream knocked off. So I just eliminated that real quick. I don't think Amazon has gotten used to this yet as far as like fixing their algorithm. Everybody else, I mean, some people take your trailers down, but they just basically have been demonetizing people. Spider-Nord got the whole stream taken down, so that's kind of lame. The only thing that I saw myself getting tagged in and messaged with today is the whole Warner Brothers mergers disaster mess, whatever, and that Netflix is willing to open, or Warner Brothers is willing to open up negotiations again. Take that with, I don't even say a grain of salt. Take that as nothing. All they're doing is indulging the Ellisons. So if they were to attempt to try to file a lawsuit afterwards saying that, they didn't even let their stockholders know about our latest bid, that's going to be bullshit. So they're opening it up. I don't see anything that says this isn't gonna go down in April as far as the final vote goes. And then whatever regulatory nonsense happens after that, just hope it gets over soon quick because I'm tired of this fucking merger. All right. So everything else, like I said, we're going to answer some questions from the chat. The only other topic I have is Brad's been wanting to, he's got an article he wrote years ago. And since I am a comic book guy at heart and it's a comic book topic, it's one of the few things that takes the Snyderverse off the ban list because we're going to be talking about the inspirations of each of these characters or the story in general. And we'll go over his article. I haven't read this article in a while. I think this article is like 2 or 3 years ago. But on that note, go ahead and bring in the author of that article.
Hello, everybody. Actually, it's to kind of correct that. It's not that old. Actually, it's from September. So it's only like
this year? Okay.
Yeah, 5-6 months old. So it's it's fairly recent. It's actually probably one of the last ones I did before I left comic book. But yeah, I was thinking about it at the time, like at the time when it was published, like, oh, I should tell William about this. I bet he'd really dig it and want to talk about it in the show. And then just for whatever reason, just kind of slipped my mind. But then it just popped back in the last week or so. I So I nudged William and said, "Hey, let's bring this up on the show. I bet you'd really enjoy kind of breaking it down, even though some of the picks I put on there, I know he's not a fan of."
Yeah, I saw some of those, and I'm like, but it's a point of view. I think some of yours are absolutely ridiculous, but then again,
well, there are also
you're gonna probably think some of mine would be so.
Well, there's also some I put on there where whether you like it or not, they absolutely influence the movies. So it's it is what it is.
Yeah, and some of them, yeah, they're out there, but we'll get to that. Congratulations on being a member for 19 months and seeing 90 Snails last night. Cool. I'll be seeing them when they come out to Vegas. All right, let's start. Let's say hi to everybody. There's the duck. There's the geek
duck.
emojis. Long time no see, Larry. Oh, where you been?
Oh, and actually, maybe here's a good question to start off with, or do you want to save it for later? From Rational's question.
What does it have to do with? I just talked about it right now.
Okay, before I came in. Okay.
They have to. That's all they're doing. I don't see anything in their new offer that makes their offer a more stable offer than the ones that Netflix is putting out. But what's going to end up happening is Elephant is already threatening a lawsuit and legal action. So in order to cut this down before he even has a chance, they're opening it up and letting the stockholders and the shareholders see everything. They have to do their due diligence as long as but once they have a vote, it's done. So,
which that vote's coming up like within the next 6 weeks or so. And I DM'd William this news, earlier today and asked his thoughts, and you were like, yeah, this is just kind of okay. Let's at least like put this offer on the table so they can't claim we didn't. And that's more or less what my thought was when I saw it. It's like, yeah, this is kind of their way of just humoring them and saying like, because again, once they started drifting towards Netflix, I mean, I think it's not controversial to say that Paramount and specifically David Ellison didn't take it well. So that certainly didn't improve the prospects of Paramount being the owners of WBD. So I took this as this doesn't like swing the pendulum back in the other direction. It's just, okay, let's at least hear them out so we can say, we heard you guys out. We let you put all your cards on the table before we.
That becomes evidence now. Basically, you're going to say that we didn't give you. No, we didn't. We opened it back up again, and nothing that I saw in that deal. Maybe you guys have analyzed it a little bit more, but maybe I'm just tired of looking at it. Nothing beats the benefits of the all cash deal. No leverage. It's all money. It's all complete buyout, and the fact that number one, Paramount still hasn't acknowledged the value that Warner Brothers Discovery thinks their linear networks are worth. And if Warner Brothers Discovery can make another transaction after the initial transaction and get even more money, and they're going to have an all cash, I just don't see anything change. I read the minutia of what he's offering again, and to me, it still doesn't add up. Now he had that there was one investor group that said, we're going to take the Paramount deal. They make up for 1% of all the shares. So I could really give two shits about them. Yeah. Now, if it were to start, escalating and, tomorrow I wake up, next day I wake up, there's a whole bunch of people saying, you know what, we're going to take this deal. But there's not enough. I don't see a significant enough change in that deal for anybody to change their mind. I think that the 1%ers that did switch were on the fence to begin with. They were never completely, but once again, 1%, it doesn't have to be unanimous. It just has to be a majority vote. So.
Well, and I mean, the other thing I mentioned to William, like we were talking about the soft line earlier today, is, I mean, because whatever terms Paramount's including in this, it's like, I mean, and I've seen other people speculate this left and right all over the place today, is like, Netflix, I mean, they already put a cash bid on the table. I mean, there's nothing stopping them from like adding more zeros behind that, which I would fully expect them to do if Paramount like really did something to sweeten the deal, on their end. So, but they
really didn't. The dollar amount is still the same. They have not increased their dollar amount, as far as I know. So why are we even? So we're going to give you 20% of this, or we're going to back up this and that. Who gives a fuck? I don't need to back up unless you're offering something for me to step away the deal from. Or we're going to guarantee what, the separation fee. I'm like, what if I don't want to separate? That's the whole thing. Is I'm like, you haven't given me anything beyond the number. You've messed around with percentages and stuff, but for the most part, their number is still the same. It's still the same, and their money is leveraged. They're going to get money from other places. Their finances are still one of the sticking points where a lot of investors didn't want to do it because they didn't know where this money was coming from. You know where Netflix money is coming from, and you know Netflix pulls in billions of dollars a month.
Yeah, they got a bottomless pit. They could just increase that, cash bid all day if they want to.
But I need this fucking vote to happen because I'm really tired of this merger, and I'm tired of all the individuals in it. So.
And again, it's sometime next month they're having the vote on it.
April.
Okay, so that's about 2 months away?
About a month in it, depending on when the vote is set. All right, Willa Brad, thank you for the $5 super chat. William Willa Brad, that's just so creepy. What's your opinion on DCU heads being okay with older Batman already dead, but not Batfleck going on? So those are two different sets of people. The people who are okay with whatever James Gunn is doing were not the people who had a problem with anything. That those are two different management groups. So that's really the only way I can answer that. It's not like it's the same person having a difference of opinion with different personnel. This is totally different management. Not one speck of the DCEU management is in place for the DCU management. So.
Well, has Gunn said that like the Brave and Bold Batman is going to be? He's already going to have. I mean, maybe like Brave and the Bold kind of gives that away, but has he confirmed that Damian's going to be part of it? That Batman will be.
I don't know where he did specifically, but I'm almost certain that that's the case.
Yeah, that's right. So like
Damien is 10.
Bold,
so
yeah, Brave and the Bold maybe kind of gives that away a little bit, but and I think like Larry, it's like, I mean, it was definitely a frustrating double standard. I think you're also kind of conflating like the management with like the fandom community, which that's bogus. But in the fandom community side, saying it's like it's okay when this filmmaker does this, but not when this one does it. But again, on the management side, they're on the management side. Oh yeah,
that's right. I think he specified. I think he meant the executives, right, Larry? Because we don't. I really, when it comes to fans' opinions on that is a perception thing. But if you're asking me what I think about these current DCU executives being okay with it, I have no problem with it. I wouldn't have had a problem with the old management had they been consistent with what they were doing. This management basically has just handed it over to James Gunn, and that's it. We did not, and here's another thing, and this is really important. We didn't have a studio or a studio head to really take, this decision with heart.
Larry's got a couple. I've seen people be anti-Batfleck, being old, excited for Batman already in his years. Brad knows, though. Well, and also like on the executive side, as horrendous as that management was, they were also the bad decisions they made were decisions meant to placate backlash within the audience and fandom community. So it's not like they like woke up and said we just don't like this idea that we greenlit previously anymore. It's they
Star Wars themselves is what exactly. They did. Listen. I think we all know that when it comes to certain things, most of us fans are full of shit. And we are definitely full of shit to the point where if you're an executive, you gotta be real careful and skillful of what you take out of what we say. We say shit out of passion and stupidity sometimes, mostly passion. We as fans know what we want. We don't know how to execute that. We don't know necessarily how to get to there.
I think also we don't necessarily know how to articulate that the best all the time too.
And we're not, for the most of us, we're not filmmakers, and for almost all of us, we're not filmmakers on the level that we're talking about here. So if you're an executive, it's one thing to hear the voice of the fans, but you got to be really careful. You have to be able to balance that with your business. So I got to be able to listen, and if Brad is screaming and a bunch of Brads are screaming and whatever people are doing, I got to be able to listen to what they're saying and take it in, but I also got to be able to filter it. So how do I take that and a whole bunch of other range of opinions, because Brad's opinion is not going to be the only opinion I hear. I'm going to be hearing from a lot of different people. How do I mold that into something I can sell to the general public? Because remember, most of these fans, most of us fans that commiserate on the internet, we don't make up the percentage that moves the needle.
And see, the thing about that too is it applies to DC, like you talked about specifically after BVS and like controversy and different reaction to that. The like the irony I think with that is that, I mean, we got what we got at first with the 2017 version, but then the movie we eventually got was Zack Snyder's Justice League, and I think this is borne out in the response that it received. It's like it's like what you're talking about when you say it's like, okay, we're listening to feedback from the audience, but not like just one segment of the audience. We're listening to everybody. And I think with that movie, and again, I think this is borne out in the reception it got, is that the movie that they initially made was one that really kind of balanced all that out, where it's like it's a lighter tone, a lot of things that, you know, again, like detractors didn't like in BVS, or kind of, you know, it's I don't know if I should use the word remedy, but it's like it's a progression of BVS, you know, Man of Steel, BVS, or Wonder Woman, in a way that's like, it doesn't like alienate your pre-existing fan base, but it also, it's like, it's not gonna turn, it's basically also what the detractors were asking for, but it's done in a much more organic way than the rush job they did in 2017. And then when you talk about like Star Wars, I mean, Star Wars ran into the exact same problem coming off of Last Jedi, going to Rise of Skywalker, and like there's a whole other can of worms with that.
Yeah, but the internet is not the world. And see, the biggest issue that those guys have, because they weren't connected to any, they weren't a James Gunn. They weren't connected to the IP to where they could know what they were doing. So they listened to the internet. They listened to people, you know, and they didn't know how to interpret their math. And that was the biggest problem with the Sarnoff and Emmerich crew. They could not understand their own math, because they're like, oh, we had a 69% drop off. The world is fucking ending. Listen, if you give me, you know, when I go to grab, you know, my payment for something, and it's over the course of time, I want that bottom line number. That movie made $873 million. Now, because they couldn't interpret that was their problem. And then listen to the internet. Guess what most people who like a movie do? They go, they pay, they watch. They don't get on the internet. They don't scream on YouTube. They don't scream at each other. They don't form cults. They don't do the stupid shit. Most people, the vast majority of people that watch and enjoy something, watch it and they wait for something else to come out associated with it. So we got to hear the loud Nancy's for 10 years, but we never really got to hear the person who just went and came and enjoyed. And that's for anything. I think we don't realize that Twitter and Threads and YouTube is not the world.
Well, I mean,
it's a fun place to be, but it's not the world. And if you're somebody that's buying and selling something on a executive level, you got to understand that. And they just couldn't.
Well, there's also the whole, I mean, this has been, and again, not just with DC and not just with Star Wars, but this has been like, you know, pointed out certainly, you know, in the internet and social media age a lot, that, you know, negative reactions inevitably are more of a lightning rod than positive reactions. And so, you know, negativity drives discourse, drives, unfortunately, decision making more aggressively than positivity does.
Well, but you got to be smart, though. Negativity from where? Negativity from where? And at the end of the day, it's a business. The money is what should be determining things. And not only if you don't know what you're doing and you set stupid goals, then right there you've gotten yourself into a trap. Not only have you gotten yourself into a trap because you set dumb goals, but you're listening to people that are driven by passion and not business all the time. And that's fun. Like I said, the rules of a fan don't necessarily apply. We can say whatever we want to. We can be passionate about it if we want to. But if you're the guy with the name on my check-in on the corner office, you can't act like that. You can't be a fucking imbecile and say stupid shit and apply that to your business model. That's what they did, and that's where they came in. Which mic are you using?
I'm using right here on my headset,
because I'm getting the feedback. You're not getting the echo, which is better, but I'm getting that. Remember that static every now and then. Hold on. Okay, hold on. Great points about. Thank you for the $5 super chat. Great points about the execs. I've just seen influencers say DCU Batman can be further in his career, but not like. I think a lot of influencers are fans. Influencers are fans. I can respect another content creator's opinion, but it's not gospel. That's an opinion. I don't have to take that opinion any further than the channel that I'm listening to. It's a valid opinion that they can fit, but it's not something that's not a blueprint. That is not something that is, a director or a producer or a screenwriter should even be taking into account.
Well, here's another side of that too, and I mean, I can, having been on the inside of this, I can attest to is also within the last, certainly within the last quarter century or so, when like DC, Marvel, Star Wars, all these, nerd properties have become, these billion-dollar franchises, and golden gooses for studios. Also, journalists are fans now. I mean, they're and that's like for better or worse. I mean, people who I work with, I mean, like have opinions on these things that they're entitled to. They're entitled to like or not like the work of Zack Snyder or James Gunn or this guy or that guy or this or like DC or Marvel more, or vice versa. And
thank you, Larry.
And that there's, and I'm not saying that like it's a nefarious thing. It's human nature. It's like when you're entertainment journalist specifically, it's like you're the lens you look through. I mean, it's like I'm not immune to this either. It's like the lens you look through. It's like it will inevitably impact your coverage of this. Obviously the key to that is also you have to you do have to like keep that in check. I mean, there have been things I've written plenty of times where I've gone over through my kind of a final pass of it and say, okay, this is like I'm sounding too, I'm going to like spazzing out fanboy on this, so I need to kind of keep this in check because I also need to be professional, in this format. But again, not just influencers, but also journalists, people who cover this professionally, they're fans. It's like, and that's not a bad thing necessarily.
No, it's not a bad thing. You just have to know where to apply it. And here's the thing, though. If I can respect your opinion as an influencer or journalist or a columnist or as just an actual fan, that same respect needs to be applied to the storyteller and their decisions that they've made and the story that they're trying to tell. I have to, and fans in general have to do better in how they intake this stuff and how they use it. You can listen to everything you want. You can intake, you can even agree with that. But we got it when we try to apply what we want into what that person's, there's a reason why that person's there. It is just, and it's only really happens for me when it comes to comic book movies. In the actual comic books, it's not as distorted. It doesn't get this crazy. It gets kind of crazy, but never to the level I've seen it when it came to movies. Because movies are an experiential thing.
It can, with things like Captain America being Hydra and stuff like that. I mean, it's not, you never see
not
that.
really, not really, because most of the people who respond to that in a certain way, we're not reading Captain America at that time. See, the difference between a comic book story and a movie is that movies are built up differently. Shows are built up differently. Comic books, which you have the long form storytelling, there was a long form story behind all of that. And so it's the difference between Captain America, Sam Wilson being Captain America in the comics, and Shuri being Captain America. It's how you got there. How you get there in a comic book is a long form, built up foundational story that you have time to build up and absorb and to make your case. Captain America, as Steve Rogers, has been the brand that they established Captain America on in the movies. How fans take things and experience things in the movies is different from the comic books because the story that led to Sam Wilson becoming Captain America was a long built up, and it was a temporary one, but you understood it. When you do it in the movies and you don't have that kind of build up, it's different. Same thing with Shuri. People say, well, you didn't like Wakanda Forever, Shuri being Black Panther. Well, it happened that way in the comics. Yeah, but it was presented in the comics entirely different and over a course of time with an explanation that was different. It wasn't being used as a substitute for the actual person who had passed away. So when you're comparing comics to movies, sometimes the mentality behind, and I'm not saying comic book fans are better than movie fans. Many of you are both now, but there's a different escalation to get to a certain point in the comics that we're sort of like, okay, I got it. By the time that escalation happens, we've already made the case. Movies, comics, TV shows, it's put on people differently. So It's just a different mentality sometimes, in my opinion. Not a better or worse, but you just got to understand that, the same thing, Sam Wilson becoming Captain America in the comics, was done over the course of a story that led up to that, and was relevant. The way they've established Steve Rogers as Captain America has been a brand establishing thing. He's a brand in the comic books, but we went through 1987, Captain America 332, where Captain America gave up being Captain America, and John Walker came and was Captain America for damn near a year. He was at Captain America for a year. It made the news, and all the the speculator people got involved and had something to say. But as somebody who was reading Captain America at that time, we understood what was happening. It was done differently than like what we did in the comic books, where he just becomes old and we knew to do Captain America. It's totally different. So you just got to understand that as well. Fourth.
Yeah, fourth.
Hold on. Why can't I bring up your super chat? Hold on. I don't even want to highlight your crazy ass today.
Well, it relates to what we were talking about last night with AI.
You're going to have to, like I said, you may be 100% right, but there's just got to be, listen, all this stuff can happen and we can coexist with this. There's just got to be legal parameters set up, and globally too. There's got to be there's got to be not just lawsuits and stuff have to be filed and worked out. There's got to be treaties, because we do a lot of business with other countries, and those, we have to be able to recognize each other's laws in order to make this, to establish it. And I think I have no doubt that we'll get there. It's just kind of scary right now because we don't have any parameters. We got this thing out there that is a tool that not everybody's doing good things with it. So you have to establish rules. That's all. Thank you for the $5 super chat.
Here's a good one from Aaron. Question to William about comic book law. If there's a Snyderverse comic book, wouldn't the publisher, i.e. DC, have to pay for the likeness of the actors, or are there different media laws for comics? Now, this is interesting because I mean, there have been like Superman comics I've read where they use likeness of Christopher Reeve, and there are other. I mean, they've definitely used the likeness of real people in a lot of different comics. So that's actually really good question, I think.
As far as I know, because they sort of own that interpretation. So if they were to if Cavill were to put on, if they were to use Cavill, let me make sure I'm answering, because I question, William, comic book law. If there is a Snyderverse comic books, wouldn't the publisher in DC have to pay? Not necessarily, because the it's one and the same company. And I just please don't quote me, because I'm just going from experience, but I could be. We'll look at this. It's Zack Snyder's Justice League and all those movies are a Warner Brothers property. Warner Brothers owns DC. So I believe the likenesses thereof that happened in that movie are properties of, so they can adapt those movies. Now, there may be something to where if you make it look like Ben Affleck, I don't know if part of his contract would, because you're putting his likenesses on cups and underwear and toys and everything else. So I don't know if that contract covers the interpretation. That's a really good question, Aaron. Hold on a second.
And then be like again, like the fact that they're using the likeness of actors who have already played these characters, and this is a comic book that's tying into that version.
Yeah, and they own both ends of it, though. I know because like I say, if Netflix were to do something that that Marvel, something that I think you'd have to have a deal worked out. Because I also know that there's figures. I know there's some times where there was some company didn't have the permission of the live people. So they had to make figures, the figures or something. Not with Zack Snyder's Justice League, but when we're talking about that, I think the fact that it's bookended by Warner Brothers, the fact that they own the production and they own the comic book company that will be making it, and I'm quite certain that when you do comic book movies like this, now I think these days the likenesses and all that, you sign all that, that over. So I'm not sure.
Especially because they do like tie-in, they do like prequel comics or side story comics tying into the movies directly. So that's already kind of big.
There's an easy way around that, though. I believe they're covered, Aaron, but I think the easiest way around that, if they weren't, we don't have to have that Superman that looked like Cavill. I mean, it's a comic book. If I have Todd McFarlane drawing Henry Cavill, it's gonna look like Superman. I mean, we can tell the story without it looking exactly like them. It's kind of hard in comics to do that.
Now, if Todd McFarlane, like, he used Cavill's likeness in like a Spawn comic without like getting that clear, that could be
because Warner Brothers does not own Spawn, and there was no agreement. There was never an agreement between Warner Brothers and Henry Cavill or the cast. Well, they were in a Warner Brothers movie, so I think, Aaron, I think they're covered. But once again, I'll get back to you on that because that's a good question.
That is the end. Again, that's like, I mean, it's the kind of thing like if they pull the trigger on something like this, or these are questions they would have to answer. It's like, okay, because I mean, whenever you're making a movie or making like a tie into a movie, I mean, questions like who's getting paid and how much they're getting paid and what residuals are going where and this and that. I mean, those are absolutely things that have to be ironed out.
Yeah. I think when you sign on to become a character that is wholly owned by the production company, who owns, I think that company is going to cover everything, because they've done Snyderverse covers. They've taken the artwork, and it looks, that when I got at the store, it looks exactly, that's them.
Well, and they did also, I mean, they did like Superman 78, they did the Batman 89 comics, they used Christopher Reeve and Michael Keaton's likeness in those. So again, it's not,
because they own that vision.
They own those versions.
They own that
Superman,
vision.
Batman,
Yeah, they own those interpretations of those characters. They own those. Those belong to them. So,
which, by the way,
I'm going to say
Which, by the way, also, I mean, to go back in time a little bit, that is why we're all like the social media teasing that he did. That's why Zack couldn't just like of his own volition just release his cut, because the character, because
he would have gotten sued.
Yeah, the characters, the IP, it's like it's copyrighted, owned by DC, owned by Warner Brothers. So it's, you know, if they were that easy, you know, we wouldn't have had a hashtag for 3 years for that. But that's so the legal channels.
If fan stuff gets taken down by the companies, you definitely that would have gotten taken down. And you don't want to get into a legal quagmire either, because he would not have had a case. You don't want him getting sued and losing, you know, millions, because, you know, you just want to do. He ultimately did it the right way. Opinions are cool. I agree. I just see, understand. I be honest with you, dude. They're the easiest people to ignore. They're the easiest people to ignore. I ignore those guys with ease. It's one thing. Listen, like I've said before, when it comes to Star Wars, Star Trek, anything, it's one thing to have an opinion. That's okay. But once you become belligerent in your opinion, then I easily tune you out. So yeah, I know they're out there. They're out there. They're on the same canoe with old Trek fan. They're on the same
comments right now going to town.
You know, they're in the same canoe as old Star Wars fan, and we need to learn the lesson that look what happens to the franchises when we do this. So my advice to everybody is just easily ignore them. They're so easy to ignore them. You know, it's easy. It's easy. Just, you know.
Yeah, fourth point. Yeah, he had to fight for this for quite a while. You know, to get that title. And I mean, the reason being was, I mean, the title itself is to set it apart from the theatrical, to distinguish it. This is a different movie from the theatrical cut, but even that's like, and it's not the first time like you had like a director's name. I believe it's called the vanity title, when like the director's name is like actually part of the title. But again, that requires like a whole thing with like the patent office and stuff like that, which they really had quite a little fight behind the scenes. Though that, I mean, fortunately it, you know, turned out favorably. But yeah, it's just there's a lot of I's and T's to be dotted and crossed on these kinds of things.
Well, by the way, I want to tell anybody this, whether you're in the comments or, you know, in the comments later after this is aired and screened, or whether you're here now. The title was clear. If there's something about this show that you didn't want to be a part of, get the fuck out. What do there's only so many things I can tell you guys. I know there's a certain contingent of people, and there's more than just the one or two that might be currently in chats or anything right now that, you know, want to. And generally, I usually am one of it. We rarely talk about this time, but there is a comic book association to it. A comic book guy. It's a relevant topic. I didn't have anything else going on tonight. So, but if it stresses you out, whether you're watching this live or in the future, there's a little X. When I created YouTube, I built in this little X, and I think it's still on the upper right.
Yeah,
I think it's still on the upper right.
and this
You
is
can click it. You can click it, and I go away.
me too.
So
And
there
this
you go.
and this isn't even like we were talking about like how badly we want to restore the Snyderverse kind of stream. This is just about like here's comic books that are so that you can like draw parallels to in it.
Yeah, this isn't even remotely close to it. This is just I'm talking about a comic movie that's connected to comic book characters. And like I said, YouTube's free, guys. I create your own channel, create your own show. Maybe I'll like and subscribe. Who knows? But yeah, if you don't want to be here, fucking leave, guys. It's really easy. It's all right. Let's get to let's see.
Oh, Aaron, I know the fan that made it. Yeah, I remember that came out. That was really as the Four Nerds and Andre Fernandez directed that. A lot of the Four Nerds were part of that. A lot of people in the community like voiced different characters in it and did artwork on it. It was really, if you haven't seen, look at Project Justice League on YouTube. It's really it's based off of the whiteboards, the outline of Justice League 2 and 3. Not fully up to date because Zack has talked about like a guy got like a version of that, like if I made it today, but again, this is like it's with what's known of the intended story. They took that and made a motion comic out of it. It was really and you had some people on, I think, for that one because
we spread. We did. It was like on New Year's Eve or something like that.
Yeah, and that was within the fandom. That was like an event that it was really well done. And I if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend Project Justice League. That was really and this is like the two things right now as far that have been produced that I would say like is the closest we currently have to the conclusion of Zack's arc as far as like following the story intended for it is Project Justice League. And then as far as like anything Warner Brothers themselves have released, I would say the animated movie Justice League Dark Apocalypse War, even though it's telling a different story, it's still like you can definitely see there's a very like Zack Snyder feel to it. So if you haven't seen those, I highly recommend them.
All right, Monzano, William, that's the problem. The loudest people are usually the minority, not the majority, and sometimes the minority has more power. If you're fucking stupid, yeah. You are 100% right, Anthony. If you are, listen, I'm an idiot. I can count to 10 on two hands, right? Thumbs and all. If you are selling something and you don't listen to the majority of the people who gave you the most money, and you let the loud minority drive your decision making, you're a fucking moron. That's all there is to that. I think cavemen who put sticks together to do arithmetic, if that was even a thing, can figure that out. If I put something out and I made a lot of money out of it, and I get a couple people here that are like, I didn't like it. I'm like, you know what? I may even entertain you. I may even listen to you. But by no fucking means am I going to use you as the basis of my decision. I can't. I'll go out of business. I can work in your direction as much as I can, but I got these people over here that are spending the money. And you know what? They didn't say shit. Because when I put out Man of Steel, I had the whiners, I had the people who didn't like it, and that's fine. That's an opinion. But a whole bunch of other people did like it. So when I put out BVS, even more people like that. Yeah, I heard the whining, but where did they fall within the majority in the people that saw that? So, and then that's where they made the mistake. They couldn't identify their own identity and who their fan was. And if you can't do that in any business, you're gone. You're done. It could be a quick process or it could be a small process. But if you can't figure out where your money is coming from and where the opinions are that you need to be listening to, and guess what? A lot of the positive people are not going to say shit because they're not crazy. They're not us. They're gonna go to the movies. They're gonna grab some popcorn. They're gonna watch the movie. They're gonna talk about it with the movie. Talk about with the people that they came up with. They're gonna go out and have a beer. They're gonna do all that stuff, and then they're gonna go home. And then guess what? When you make something else, guess what they're gonna do? They're gonna quietly get off their ass. They're gonna take the family, whatever, and they're gonna go down and they're gonna continue to buy it. They might even be on Rotten Tomatoes. So you have to account that the majority is telling you what they think with their dollars. They're saying that's all they don't feel like they need to join up and be like, wow, I got to join this group to really, I got to let people know how much I love this movie. You can do that. There's nothing wrong with that. But the vast majority of people who are satisfied customers, you know what a satisfied customer does? They come back. I got guys that come back. They don't, and sometimes they'll spread the word and they'll say, hey, you know what? I met this guy who sells cool stuff. Go see him. But the biggest thing that they do, the most important thing that they do is they come back. They trust you with their money and they come back. So most of those guys aren't going to be the guys on the YouTube, guys on the internet. And as an executive who's literally went to school for this and trains this, done it, you got to be able to find that guy and satisfy our gal and satisfy that person. You can't always listen to the noise. You can't always listen to the noise. So, and a lot of these franchises are doing that. They're listening to the noise and they're going in the direction of the noise and they end up leaving everybody else. And you know what, that customer, once you start listening to the noise and you present a project that person whose money you got and would have gotten over and over again, he's going to be like, this ain't for me. He's just going to quietly go away. And that's the worst kind of exit. The worst exit you could have is a guy that just stops coming. You never hear from them again. You're going to hear the loud people all the time because they can't shut the fuck up. But that other one, that the 98%ers, the backbone, they don't like something, they just may never come back. They just get up and leave. You're not going to get a survey from them. You're not going to get an opinion from them. But you still have to be able to figure out what they want because they are the backbone of whatever it is you're doing. Especially these comic book movies. Us talking about it it's fun. We're having a ball right now. We have a ball when we talk. I have a ball when I talk to the people coming in the store. But we have to understand that this thing is bigger than us by a lot. And the executives, they just, and they're doing better. I got to get a lot of the stuff we're talking about is the past. They are getting better. They are putting people in these positions and they are backing their product. So Zaslav coming out the weekend after Superman release, backing his creator, that's something you need to do. And you need to know where your money is coming from when these things, because guess what? That dictates where you're going. But it can't be from us, though. I mean, we're part of it, but we're a minuscule part of it. And we have to understand that they're the minority. The money comes, you want if you're making the majority of the money, that's who you need to be talking to. Let's see. We're going to skip. Yeah, the minorities are definitely lost on everything. Yeah, listen, we got the same thing with Star Trek. There's people who literally made it their life goal right now to screw up, people's experience with Starfleet Academy. Listen, if you watched it and didn't like it and you gave an opinion, that's a valid opinion, but you don't got to come back and be like, I can't believe this is happening. Oh my God. Gene Roddenberry is rolling in his grave right now. You people who like this are stupid. You don't need to do that. I heard you when you said you didn't like it. Now, plug in the Paramount Plus and watch the thousands of hours or whatever of Star Trek that you do like. Make yourself happy. Make yourself miserable. You just want to come in and put turds in the pool and fuck it up for everybody else. So yeah, we no fan base really needs that. No fan. Star Wars doesn't need it. Star Trek doesn't need it. And comic book movies definitely don't need it. Some people make it their life goal to fuck up somebody else's good time. That's kind of miserable. So yeah, but once again, fans got to do better, in my opinion, of who they're listening to. And not only who they're listening to, how they take that. Just because you listen to a screaming talking head, you can still, I'm not saying stop listening to him, but understand and take what he's saying in the context versus how you feel about it. And I don't think a lot of people do that sometimes. They let this talking head dictate how they feel about this. I can listen to a lot of talking heads on YouTube and hear what they say, but it's not necessarily going to influence how I feel about a genre or an IP. And I think that's what we need to get better with, personally. Let's see. Hunter Iggy, William, and Brad. Fuck Brad. I'm just kidding. William and Brad, are the rumors going around that the internet that Paul Kelly is considered for I think you asked me this yesterday. I don't have any info for you, dude. I don't have any info. I'm sorry. 2 days in a row, I don't have any info for you.
I'm sure tons of people being considered for DZ roles, and as far as that's I think who's referring to, her name is Arjona, I think is her name.
Yeah, the girl from Andor.
Yeah, so that's some that I'm a little bit more dubious about, just because I mean, Gunn has kind of been emphatic um like, has he confirmed or denied that because there's been a lot of speculation, but like Batman's going to make a cameo, Wonder Woman's going to make a cameo, Man of Tomorrow. Has he confirmed or denied either of those? Because I think
No.
he hasn't done that, but I think the stuff he said otherwise has kind of pointed in the direction of them not appearing. So that's
I'm gonna even blow that up, because he's very weird that way. And the only thing you need to be listening is when he makes an announcement or he says yes. If he says yes or no, or he makes an announcement, or somebody in the chain makes an announcement, then everything else is just rumors. And he says he I don't even know where the script is for some of that stuff. He's always said, I'm not gonna start casting until I got a crit. Yeah, so
there's a lot script. Yeah.
So how are we getting to this point? So Hunter, I don't have any info from you. All my info about this is going to come from James Gunn or whoever he names as the director of any of these projects, or the actors themselves. Like if Adrian Jonas says, "Hey, guess what, guys? I'm Wonder Woman." Okay, obviously, there we go. But as far as the rumors goes, I really, really try to stay away from rumors because I can look stupid on my own.
Well, the one that really
I don't need the help.
The one that really always annoys me is the whole thing about this gets blown up a lot especially as far as like superhero movie casting, is when I'm sure you've seen this, William, when people say it's like, oh, this guy is following this guy on Instagram.
Yeah.
And they got he's got this project in the works, and he started following him.
Or if they unfollow him, it's like, oh, you're about to kill somebody. I'm like,
yeah. That's like a big. It's like they unfollowed. That means they hate each other now. It's like that's it. And who is it? Who is it online? I mean, who has the time to monitor when Instagram is?
Apparently, there must become some kind of app or something that tracks all this. I can't do it, dude. I am on social media a lot. I'm an Instagram, Facebook guy, mainly Instagram, and I use all these other things for business. But Instagram, Facebook, those are my thing. And dude, I can barely keep up track of my shit that I put out. How are you keeping track of all these other people? So, but even still, that doesn't matter. I know that they use that to try to track, but that doesn't matter. Hey, listen, when it's time to announce it, you'll announce it.
I remember there was one that they were really it was the story that on it. Now again, this is with the caveat that I don't know what their friendship or connection or the status of their professional relationship is. I mean, but this blew up where it's like this sort of like Ana de Armas unfollows Gal Gadot on Instagram, and it was like attributed to being like over everything in Gaza, and then like 2 weeks later they're photographed together at the Oscars.
Yeah, we don't know. Listen, I know that I am a YouTube nobody. I don't know what goes on in these people's lives. I don't know if they may be texting each other. I don't know if they're I don't know if they're fucking each other. I don't know if they're not fucking. I don't know. I'm just a fan. I am so far away from what these people do that I will probably never know. And even people I work with working around. I mean, I've been in work environments where literally, back in the early days where they're fucking at work. We're beyond fucking each other. We're beyond a relationship. They're fucking at work. And I'm like not knowing about it because I don't, that's, if I know you for one reason, that's all I really care about. If I follow you as an athlete and you put that ball in the hoop, you put that baseball over the fence, or you put that ball in the end zone, that is my connection to you. So I generally don't know who's following you or who you're dating or who you're associating with, unless it has something to do to me, Yeah, or who I don't like, or who I like. I don't know anything like. Because like I said, but back in the day when I was in workplace, people would be like, you didn't hear about that? And I'd be like, well, somebody got, why'd that person get transferred out? Well, they were, in a relationship and they had to, or why'd that person get fired? And I look like a clown because I don't know. It's like, you really do keep your job. Yeah, listen, I only associated with this person because he helped me get this done. He was part of my day. Beyond that, don't care. And you know what? I may have walked past the office and heard it. And I'm like, well, hey, you know what? Because I don't get into all that. So,
well, that's definitely not something you need to get into. It's when you're hearing that, it's like, yeah, let's let that be.
You know what? It's not. I'm not in there. So guess what? I'm going to keep walking. I recently heard comics complain and say, "Don't harm anyone and don't be an asshole unless someone else to use." I really agree. Yeah, just that's a general rule in life. especially on the internet. Listen, you're just taking this shit personally. It's not. We're having a conversation about flying dogs, aliens, and cyborgs, and fishmen. So we really need to bring it back to the point where we're not using this platform to hurt somebody. But once I get to the point where I start targeting people and hurting people, I'm done. I will get off the
when you like put like somebody else's face in the thumbnail and say and make the stream about, it's like I'm gonna like have a whole stream about how much beef I have with this individual. It's like there are other YouTubers who like that's their bread and butter. It's like, that's your bread and butter.
The only face besides my own that appears on our stream on a regular basis is Brad. Now, if you're on my show promoting, like we've had some Kickstarter people, Ernie, we've had some people, we had the guy a couple of weeks ago. If we're promoting and we're working together on a project or something like that, then you'll be on the, like, when we did the 4 Nerds thing, I had them in the thumbnail when we were watching and promoting their thing. If I'm working with you or we're doing something, then you're in the thumbnail. Maybe not even then. But if I got a beef with you, YouTube is not where I'm handling it. If I have an issue if I had an issue with anybody in this community, and it's something that I think can be worked out communication wise, I got a lot of different ways. Most of the YouTubers that I associate with, I have a way to get a hold of them, and I am never going. I don't make drama content. I don't make situation content. I don't believe that is content. I don't believe your personal issues with somebody is content, but that's a decision for every streamer to make. I don't do that. I will never do that. You will see me in this channel before I take a complaint or anything and put it on and use in shit all over this show to do that. To me, that is like smearing shit over everything you build. Now, that each person's got to make their decision. But if somebody says something about me and makes a stream about, and we've had that. We've had people make streams about me. I'm like, what are you doing? I mean, I'm literally, look at my numbers, or you're making a stream about. But anyway, I am not going to in turn do that with them. I've had people snipe stream me. Once again, why are you snipe streaming me, dude? You got to aim higher. But I have never retaliated with bringing that up on the show or doing the same. And that's just something I'm gonna do. And that's not only is that just professional courtesy, but I just think you look like what you present. And this is not the platform for that. I can call you on the phone. If I have an issue with Brad, guess what? I'm going to text Brad. I'm going to message Brad. We're going to talk it out. It will, if we had an issue like that or something crazy other than the stupid shit we talk about on here, if we had a legitimate issue, you people would never know unless Brad.
Unless I split, and we have each other's numbers. We text and call plenty. So,
if somebody's, I hate William and he's a piece of shit and streams for 15 minutes about me. First of all, that's 15 minutes you just wasted. But please like and subscribe. But I'm not gonna. My next step is not going to be to highlight that person or even make that person exist. I just think that's not what my platform is for.
All right. Well, on that note, do you want to go ahead and get into the article?
Yeah, let me make sure I've skipped. The vocal. But especially once the internet got involved in pro wrestling. Vince didn't know how to handle that shit, and now later on, TKO is they're clueless. They're clueless. These prices for WrestleMania for that card, and I'm still not going because even a cheap WrestleMania ticket is still more than I feel like paying. But hold on, I just want to make sure that we've gotten all the relevant ones out the way. Some of you guys are talking to each other, so I just want to make sure that that's out there. Monty Python, so we'll skip that. William, taking away the current state of Marvel, do you think that was smart? I'm taking away from the current state. They never cater to the loud minority.
Oh, I think he's talking about like the fact that Marvel never had anything like that happen. Well, look, have they ever had to like course correct or semi reboot? I'm talking about like they ever had to like they had like a major debacle and they had just completely changed gears like to where it was like visible to the naked eye. No,
pros don't do that. Pros don't do that. That's how you. That was the biggest difference between DC at that time and Marvel was management.
Well, and look, I mean, the point I made too is, I mean, Avengers. I mean, that was the first like $1 billion Marvel hit. Look back on like all the movies that led into that. I mean, like obviously Iron Man like got them off, started off very strong. Like Incredible Hulk, which I think is their most underrated movie, but it didn't do well. And there was divisive reception. Iron Man 2, and Thor.
Incredible Hulk wasn't really considered part of it, though. That's
but
and
then
I mean, hardcore people figure, but the general public didn't really associate Incredible Hulk.
Yeah. And then Captain America: First Avenger that did like 370 or something. Like, so it's like the first like wave of the MCU leading to. I mean, it was successful, but it wasn't like the just nonstop $1 billion factory that we think of it as now. It's like when they got,
because that was never their goal.
Yeah.
When Kevin Feige and all those people sat down, their priority was to create a good story that people were going to enjoy. They didn't sit on there with those visors that you see when people are playing poker and counting a bunch of money and drawing up charts and stuff. If this doesn't do this, they were competent enough into what they were doing that they knew where they wanted to go, and they didn't blink, and they knew who to listen to.
Yeah,
By the time Kevin Feige got to where he was at, he had surrounded himself with people that he knew who to listen to. And guess what? The people that hired Kevin Feige and the people who inherited Kevin Feige when it comes to Disney, they looked at that and said, "This motherfucker knows what he's doing. I'm going to go over here."
And again, that's like in the lead up to Avengers. I mean, they had movies that didn't do as well as others, and they said, "Okay, we'll adjust, we'll tweak, we'll modify as needed, but not to the point of like completely derailing from what our goal is," which was
that's what you do. You may, because Kevin Feige probably interferes. You think studio interference? Kevin Feige probably interferes more than anybody ever gives it credit for, but because the way it's done and he knows what he's doing, you don't see things blowing up like the clowns and the other organization were at the time because they didn't know what they were doing. Kevin Feige probably interferes in every damn movie that's out there to a certain point. It's his movie, he's executive producer, but most of the people that he's working with are like, okay, he's right, and B, he's got a track record, and 2, he knows how to do it to the point where it doesn't become an issue.
They don't do it in such a way where like the first thing you see in the movie is the CGI mustache flip. So they know how to again like navigate when there's something that needs to. Okay, we need to accommodate for this issue that was that has been part of this latest days. They do that, but they do it in a way where it's like, okay, we want to get from point A to point B. We're going to fix things as needed, but we're not going to do it in a way that's going to stop us from getting.
Yeah, we're not going to panic.
Yeah.
Pros don't panic. Plus, this channel, there are good bloke. Oh, good. I thought you said blokes. Good folks here. Well, no, you did say bloke. I haven't heard that in a long time. I'd understand if you went to Harsh Critics channel and did it. But these people are good people. No, this is not. I come to this. I do these things in this little spirit that I do because I'm happy to be part of the conversation. Those people are doing it for clicks. They're doing it to get 1,000 views and 2,000 views. And guess what? Look where our views are at. Look where our tiny channel is at. It's growing. It's growing every day. But I will take the growth that I have now and have the channel be the kind of conversation I want before I do some bullshit and just because, oh, looks like the views are down. Now I'll make adjustments. I'll be like, because I do want the channel to grow. I do want more people to see it, but I'm not going to make a spectacle. I'm not going to hijack some drama just to do it.
And there's, without naming names, we're talking about like the other YouTubers who like their brand is drama and like plastering somebody else's face on their thumbnail and just ranting about them for 2 hours. You look at their YouTube tenure, it's like it has a lot of ebb and flow where like they just burn out, abandon it, come back, etc. It's not sustainable that way because who wants to like spend that amount of time like being pissed off at somebody?
And make no mistake, if that's what you do, I'm not saying I'm better than you. I'm not saying you're better than me. What I am saying is I've made a certain set of decisions in regard to this channel. And that's where I stand. If you are paying your rent and that works for you and YouTube is doing that for you, continue to do it. I'm answering questions, in a way, in a format that I think suits the tone and tenor of the conversation I have. There are people who are very successful with doing that stuff, and let them be. I just don't want it anywhere near my channel, and they've made this decision to run their channel their way, and I've made the decision to run this one my way. I tried to kill you actually, but you know what?
Well,
I said that out loud.
And anyway, Fourth, what are you doing here tonight? Because I thought you were banned for like AI-ifying William.
Yeah, I really should. I really should kill him. William,
I forgot to pull it up. He actually asked us how much he owes us for like using our likeness in that AI video. It's like, really, dude. Like I said, I think I look more like Phil in that video, and I think William comes off like so. Like, you know, it's like, yeah, I'll let you have that one. That's a freebie.
I don't even want to, whatever. William, I had created a group to talk the recent Superman movie, and we were having a good conversation, and then all of a sudden some Snyder fans came into the space. There's probably some of the people you're probably talking to and having a good conversation with were Snyder fans too. Here's the thing though, not everybody's monolithic. Just because they're Snyder fans, they're not going to be fucking things up, but there are some that fuck it up. And if you started the group, if you're the admin, you got to get rid of them. You got to get rid of them. If they're not there to further your conversation, they got to go. And it's not about, not, wanting somebody to have freedom of speech or anything like that. You created that group to explore an aspect of a superhero in the way that you wanted to. You have the right to get rid of those people. You have the right to get rid of those people. You created that group. You created a conversation to that makes you happy, and somebody's fucking with it. If they're not there to further the conversation, they don't have to agree with you 100% with everything. But if they're not, you can tell when somebody's expressing an opinion, when somebody's just being an asshole. So you need to be able, as the admin of that group that you created, you need to be able to filter those people out, and then don't hesitate in doing so. All right, let's go ahead and bring up your thing here.
Alrighty, my article I wrote on comicbook.com is published back on September 15th. Yeah, I don't know why one was thinking it was a year ago.
I got a lot going on, man. Sorry.
Nah, but the title is, as you can see here, 10 comics to read if you miss those Snyderverse feelings, and basically the idea behind this.
All right, let me get this out of the way so I don't have to do this for some of the ones that are like. You can play that in your head, you guys, because some of these ones they're getting budget. So
yeah, you probably guessed at least one of them already. So basically, the idea of this is as a topic that we've frequently discussed in the show. People want to see the rest of the Snyderverse story, like see the rest of the story after the end of Zack Snyder's Justice League, where the conflict with Darkseid, the Batman Deathstroke showdown, all that jazz. People still begging for that, all these years later. And but until such time we get that, which God willing, that day will come. There's these are comic book movies based on comic books, so you could trace the lineage of these stories back to the source material. And so basically with this, I did a rundown, like, okay, here's like 10 really well-known comic book stories you can read that that really kind of relate to like Zack's DCEU movies. These are either ones that you could see definitely were your narrative basis for, like, the movies were to varying degrees based on these, the ones, the main movies like Man of Steel, BVS, Wonder Woman, Zack Snyder's Justice League, all that. These are these are comics that inform their stories to varying degrees. Or there's the ones that kind of we know like what they were going to do, but they haven't been made. There's also like some connective tissue with different comic book stories on those. So, and then there's a couple also where it's like it's not necessarily like anything that's made or still not made that we that it would be based on that, but it's just like this like it would scratch that itch for you. You depend with the presence of certain characters or the scale or things like that with it. So without further ado, I'm gonna run down these 10 comics, and the first, and I know this is at least this one William is going to enjoy seeing.
Yeah, that goes without saying.
Yeah, starting out. Did I hiccup there? A little internet hiccup there?
Yeah, you did.
Okay. Yes, The Dark Knight Returns. Okay, sorry about that. But yes, the first one, Frank Miller's seminal graphic novel that, as he puts it, gave Batman his balls back. Came out in 1986. This graphic novel, of course, is Batman, an older Batman returning, coming out of retirement, facing opposition of the U.S. government, coming to conflict with Superman. This played a role. I mean, this was very instrumental in Michael Uslan getting Tim Burton's Batman greenlit back in '89. And of course, it was turned into an anime movie by Jay Oliva. Really great one. That's one of my favorite DC anime movies. And then, of course, Zach has spoken at length about being a big fan of the work of Frank Miller. He's spoken very highly of Dark Knight Returns. He's talked about wanting to do like a 1-to-1 adaptation of Dark Knight Returns, but also Batman v Superman, as we all know, has the Batman Superman conflict in it. So it definitely is heavily inspired, heavily influenced by Dark Knight Returns. I've always kind of said BVS is like it's Dark Knight Returns, where it kind of like flips the dynamic of the two of them, where like Batman's the aggressor in the movie version, but in the Dark Knight Returns graphic novel, it's Superman is kind of more the antagonist in that conflict. But again, very heavily influential on BVS. So if you haven't read it yet, go give Dark Knight Returns a look. But that is one half of the comic book basis, comic book source material for BVS. The next, and I know William's got the. There we go. Did I hiccup again? So now William has spoken at length on the show about his less than warm thoughts about this story, which of course. Did I say anything? I didn't say anything inaccurate there. You've talked about you don't like it.
No, I'm just seeing it up on the screen. This one is listen. I'm not happy about this influence, but it's obviously it's in there. It's
which of course
unfortunate.
Of course we see it kind of plays out in two parts. We have the battle against Doomsday, Superman sacrificing himself at the end of BVS, and then Zack Snyder's Justice League. It begins with the new perspective of it. That was something I really enjoyed about the franchise, is that the beginning of the next movie would be the ending of the last one, told from like a kind of a different angle. And they do that with the Doomsday battle in BVS. It feeds into Zack Snyder's Justice League that way. And then of course that it doesn't really do like Reign of Superman, but it adapts the resurrection side of the story. But again, Williams' disdain notwithstanding, this unequivocally was an influence on BVS and Zack Snyder's Justice League. So
plenty of affordable copies available.
It was also a big influence on the last two, season 3 and 4 of Superman and Lois, by the way.
Which one of what I've expressed how I like those last two seasons, not because of that. All right.
Okay.
Get off the screen.
So that's number 3. Final Crisis. This is an interesting one because this is. I know you're gonna love this, William. When I bring up, I remember the turkey video from a few years ago that everybody kind of
that people unfriended people over that. Yeah, I remember that one.
Well, and of course, I mean, he had when Zach posted that video, like it was around Thanksgiving. The turkey, he was preparing the Thanksgiving turkey, and he had like a copy of Grant Morrison's Final Crisis in the background. It's like, Zach doing what he does on social media. He loves to, have fun with this. And again, some of the stuff he's indicated about the final 2 movies, Justice League 2 and 3, more so probably 3, is that it would be heavily inspired, heavily influenced by Final Crisis. Of course, that's a big conflict with Darkseid. And then even like a big way it plays into his plans is that, of course, as we've learned over the course of the last few years, Ben Affleck's Batman arc would culminate with him sacrificing himself during the final battle with Darkseid, which we see that we see a version of that in Final Crisis. So again, this kind of relates to a lot of the plans Zach had for the conclusion of the 5 movie arc of his Man of Steel, BVS, and the Justice League films. So Final Crisis is, it's an epic. Grant Morrison, you talk about like influential like DC Comics writers. The dude's just like top tier, and it with like what he does with Darkseid and just the scale of the whole thing is really if you really want to kind of get like an encapsulation, and not even just that, just like a great comic book story with the Justice League battling Darkseid. Final Crisis is just one of the best in recent memory. So definitely give that a read if you haven't. Okay, going to the next one. This
you froze.
I think William's probably going to be a little bit split on this too. Every time I scroll down, it keets doing that for some reason. About back, okay. But The Justice League's origin in New 52. Go ahead, do it, man, because I know you're going to.
No, I mean, listen, I can buzz the
Are you
New
giving the buzzer?
52 in general. I can be not for this particular story. I'm
like
buzzing the New 52. Period. But this story was relevant.
Because I mean, DC, one of their many continuity reboots back in, I think New 52 started in 2011. I think when that I remember that all kicked off, and it kicked off with Justice League Origin, which it just in a vacuum, I think that's a really great Justice League story because it's showing them coming together. They're battling Darkseid. I really enjoyed, like, I remember reading that as I came out, like issue by issue, like the way like each character would drop in, and it really was really enthralling. And they also had kind of they had like the mainline team, and then they had like a side story that would be at the end of every issue was kind of like about Shazam's origin, which that also was heavily influential on his movie. But and it was also adapted into an animated movie. I think Jay Oliva also directed that one, Justice League War. It's swapped out Cyborg or no, it swapped out Aquaman for Shazam in the movie. But aside from like being like a Justice League origin story and the conflict with Darkseid, the other way this really relates to Zack Snyder's Justice League is the role of Cyborg. This was the first time canonically that Cyborg, he traditionally has been associated with Teen Titans. This is the first time he was actually established as a member of the Justice League, and that carried over, when they're establishing the movie roster of characters, they established Cyborg as they kind of did like, it was an interesting thing where they had kind of like a combined like the classic lineup with the New 52 lineup where you had like Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash. We saw the efforts to bring Green Lantern in. Aquaman's there, Cyborg's there from New 52, and we also had Martian Manhunter. So, the roster was kind of an interesting like kind of hybridization of traditional Justice League and New 52. But in any case, New 52, Justice League Origin, definitely you can see like the connective tissue between that and the Justice League movie that we'd see from Zack Snyder. So that's another one to definitely, if you're missing the Snyderverse feelings, definitely go read that. Yeah, let me go down here. Here's another one Wayne loves. Batman Nightfall, the famous introduction of Bane, Batman's conflict with Bane, the man who broke. Oh, by the way, let me go back to this one comment Aaron left. Yeah, she's not. Yeah, the New 52, it really got hit and miss after the Justice League Origin for me.
Mostly miss.
Like that or the team, because it kicked off. I mean, the team coming together, that was the beginning of New 52. So like that, I thought was, and really handled well. I mean, my feelings of the particular writer since then notwithstanding. But anyway, Batman Nightfall.
When he was, at his type, Nightfall. Another one. By the way, if some of these things you guys want to go ahead and grab at your local comic book store, another one. Plenty of.
Well, of course, this movie
very price-friendly copies left.
This would serve as the basis, of course, for Christopher Nolan's, or part of the basis for Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight Rises. It was also Dark Knight Returns. It was Dark Knight Rises was basically combining Dark Knight Returns, Nightfall, and No Man's Land.
See, this is where I can't be with you on this because I don't think this one.
The reason I mention this one is because now we've got no indication that Zack was going to have Bane as a character, but this relates to Ben Affleck's Batman movie, which was going, the intention was that to be an interquel from like the Justice League 1 to 2, and the conflict was going to be Batman versus Deathstroke. And a lot of like what's been revealed, primarily per Joe Manganiello, also a lot from Jay Oliva, is that Batman was really going to be tested physically and mentally, and like he wasn't going to get his back broken that we know of, but there was like it was a crucible that was taxing and a test for him in a way that that is similar to Nightfall in a lot of ways. Again, it was like kind of like Nightfall, like swapping out Bane for Deathstroke. So
it's testing me right now. Trust me.
Well, so that's Batman Nightfall. Haven't read it. I mean, of course, you got this famous image of the man who broke the bat. So go get that a read if you haven't. And then
Yeah,
another one.
literally widely available.
This is this one this next one is I knew this was gonna be the wild card on there because I knew people this next one I have on here was gonna be like people are gonna like why you pick that one? And it also relates to Ben Affleck's Batman versus Deathstroke movie. Daredevil Born Again.
Yeah, this one I completely
Another seminal. This is of course a Marvel story about from the Man Without Fears canon by Frank Miller. You know, like okay. So here's
no. I love this.
A lot of it goes
I
back
don't know
to what has been revealed.
And you're on a delay.
Well, what's been revealed about the Batman movie? Oh, okay. Okay, can you hear me now?
I can hear you, but you're delayed. It's like there's a delay.
Okay, let me step out real quick.
Yeah, there's a delay, so that way when he's okay.
Okay, is that better?
Yeah. Well, I won't know until you talk a little bit more. Go ahead. I'll stop talking. That way we're not over.
Yeah. But anyway, what's been revealed about the Batman versus Deathstroke movie that Ben Affleck scripted was going to be Batman in. It was even going to direct. And he's even said a big part of why he wanted to direct it was because his of course everybody knows before he was Batman played Daredevil 2003 movie. He's not too fond of that movie, and I remember him giving a couple interviews where he said he wanted to direct the Batman movie he scripted because he wanted to he didn't want another Daredevil basically. So it's he wanted to be just
nobody
really hands on with it. But what's been revealed about his Batman story, again, a lot of it per Joe Manganiello, a lot of it per Jay Oliva, and even a little bit from Ben himself. The conflict was Deathstroke was going to as his tease at the end of Zack Snyder's Justice League when Lex recruits Deathstroke. He was going to be just kind of running roughshod over Bruce Wayne's life. He was going to be ruining his finances. He was going to be killing people close to him. I've said on other streams, I bet if you read that script, Alfred dies in that script. I would bet anything that Alfred dies in Ben's Batman story. I think also probably a good chance Commissioner Gordon would too. And it was going to culminate in this big showdown with Batman, Deathstroke, and Batgirl jumping in to lend Batman a hand. But everything that's been revealed about that, all those details I laid out, they're really surprisingly similar to the story in Daredevil Born Again, where Matt Murdock, his conflict with Kingpin, he gets so much of his life destroyed. He's basically homeless in Born Again. He gets just put into the worst place he's ever been. Born Again, of course, famously served as the basis for Daredevil season 3 on Netflix. Contrary to the title, is not the basis for Daredevil Born Again on Disney Plus, but that title, carries a lot of weight with Daredevil. But that's the reason I put this on the list because, again, Ben, as I say in the column there, it's Ben Affleck. It's almost I feel like he might have consciously done this having played Daredevil previously. It's it's almost like he scripted an adaptation of Daredevil Born Again that traded Daredevil for Batman. And I'm not the only one who's kind of made that connection. A lot of other journalists have said with what we've been told about his Batman movie, it's this sounds an awful lot like Daredevil Born Again with Batman. So that's really kind of unexpected. But yes, definitely. Daredevil Born Again, great. One of the best Daredevil stories, just in isolation, but also definitely one to read if you kind of want to get a feel of Ben Affleck's Batman movie and what that story kind of that script that we haven't seen and that story, what that would feel like. I definitely would say get Daredevil Born Again a read and kind of mentally place Batman into that situation. Go ahead and read the comment.
$5 super chat from Larry. William, did you? Yeah, okay. William, did you hear that the Nightfall animated movie will be 4 movies? Is this adaptation the bane of your existence? Oh, hilarious. I'm going to pass on that. All 4 of them. If I want to watch Bane in a meaningful story, I have Scott Snyder to write one for me. One of the most, and then listen, that movie pains me. I equate, and fuck you guys in ahead of time because I know you're going to get pissed at this. Don't care. I equate Tom Hardy's Bane with Russell Crowe's Zeus. Better actors.
That is so hyperbole.
Better.
That is hyperbole. Highest order.
two gentlemen that are far superior than the mess that they were given to portray.
I can get the idea of like you feel like they're better actors, even if I don't necessarily agree they're better actors. But there is no way you could tell me that Bane is as cartoonish as Zeus.
It's a bad performance by a great actor.
You can't tell.
Yeah, I can put them.
Zeus.
There are specifics that are different, but the core of it is that those are the most painful 10 minutes that I ever had to witness a Russell Crowe performance. And Tom Hardy, who I love as an actor, I wanted to rip out my eardrums with my own fingernails while I'm watching that. He was irritating every fucking minute he was on the screen. And that voice, I'm like, I can't even enjoy Tom Hardy because I don't know what he's playing. Not that I have some regard for Bane to where I'm like, oh, you got Bane. I didn't fucking care. But that voice was irritating. Everything about him was irritating. I love Tom Hardy. But when it comes to that I put him in the Zeus category as far as really great actors who I will see all their movies. But everybody has a bad day at the office, and I did not. But Tom Hardy did what he could, what he was given. And I'm sorry, I know you guys put that movie in some high regard, but The Dark Knight Rises is one of the most disappointing comic book movies ever made.
By the way, quick shout out just Tom in general, and Aaron. You've probably seen this actually, Aaron. Tom, he's also a pretty avid.
Thank you for the $5 super chat, there.
Pretty avid jiu-jitsu practitioner. He's actually kind of quietly entered a lot of tournaments and won. He was just recently promoted to brown belt in jiu-jitsu. So the martial arts nerds on the Snyderverse Center, hats off to you, Tom. Okay, let's go ahead and next choice. Okay, this one here, Wonder Woman God's Immortal. Now this one was a little bit this is kind of what I was referring to when I said they're also comics that relate to the movies, but not necessarily as like a direct adaptation. Like the Wonder Woman movie, and correct me if I'm wrong, William, that's not really like based on a specific Wonder Woman story, is it?
Okay, and this is going to be where this is subjective, because I think that the story that you picked is actually spot on, but there are other aspects of it that he added, like he did World War I instead of World War II. And to me, that changes the tone. World War II and World War I are two differently brutal wars in their own way. Like that whole trench thing adds to her character. And the time. So, but I do, in my opinion, and you guys can, disagree, and I'd like to hear what you think. I do think that this story, because of where it starts out, Hippolyte, all the characters that are involved are pretty much in this story for the most part. And then they just took enemies that were part of her lore. But I do think that something like this is something that's along the lines of what may have been the inspiration.
Well, and like the movie, I mean, it's like I think probably I don't know if they've ever confirmed this, but I mean, I think probably the big reason they shifted the time frame to World War I is to just kind of avoid the comparison of Captain America. But again, the big reason I chose this is because also the Wonder Woman, the movie is as far as like the DCEU and the Snyderverse and Zack's arc he was building, that was the first one that really kind of got into like the first one really dived into like the deities and the mythology and the metaphysical aspect of it in a big way. I mean, it establishes the history of the Olympians, and in fact, one thing I thought was going to happen.
Ares was big. I thought Ares was sort of lame in there, but I thought he was kind of cool towards the end. But yeah.
And actually, one thing I thought they were going to, when they have the whole flashback to like the fall of the Olympians and the fall of Ares, I thought they were actually going to that was also going to be like kind of a covert setup for Aquaman, because I thought, okay, they were going to like. I thought what they would do in Aquaman is they would kind of like harken back to that scene, like reveal Poseidon there. That was just like the kind of thought I had. They didn't really end up doing that, but this is something I kind of theorized might happen. But anyways,
this right here, the most disappointing about Wonder Woman's aspect when it comes to finishing that story, if we ever get a shot to do it, one of the most stunning things that night on March 18th, 2021, when I'm watching this movie, was when they had that vision and the funeral pyre for Wonder Woman. I have to find out how that happened. I need to find out what's going on.
The Dark Side stepping out of the ship, and like you got,
because I didn't even see him at first.
Oh, and the thing
That first when he comes down, I'm like, the little ramp is opening up. I didn't see him at first. Somebody pointed it out to me.
I didn't see it first when they have all the Amazons lined up at the funeral. I didn't even see like the parademons standing behind them the first time.
Yeah, you could see them. You could see them dropping down. Yeah, I didn't. I watched them. I like I said, what goes on with the Joker and all that, and there are just so many things that once I saw that, I at some point before I leave this mortal coil, I really want to see that battle. I don't care if it's in claymation, sock puppets. I don't care how it is, comic books preferably. I want to see that battle because that with her with the coins on her eyes and the sword and Hippolyta, that was like, oh, okay, what it got real, and now I need it.
It's the beginning of the nightmare. It's like, holy shit, like Aquaman, Wonder Woman, they both been killed. Superman's pulled over the anti-life. Yeah, it just primes you for so much. You hear this epic conflict. Gods and Mortals. That's the reason I picked it as like the Wonder Woman story on here, because it really it's the one that the story that really kind of best relates to kind of like the mythological aspect and the way they really like the deities and kind of Wonder Woman's origin. And so probably I would say like it's probably one of the best Wonder Woman stories you could read, as far as like one that really sort of has a real sort of that's on a wavelength or has a real kind of connected tissue with the the Wonder Woman movies. So Wonder Woman Gods and Mortals. Erin's a big fan. She's a big fan because it wasn't Daniel O'Neill who wrote it.
Look up 52. I mean, it's been a while, so I'll do that. Sock puppets as well. I'm just telling you guys. I'll take the story any way you give it to me. All right, go ahead so I can buzz this next one.
My next one on here, and this is one where it's like, again, I am amazed. I am absolutely amazed more people don't make this connection, because I just don't see how you can like read this and watch Man of Steel. I mean, and just not come away thinking like this is they're joined at the hip. It's just so undisputable. Superman Earth 1. Of course, this is the
no, and I don't see this.
But you read Earth 1, right?
Yeah, I don't see this
again,
more so than Man of Steel. And I'm not a big fan of John Byrne's Man of Steel. I'm a big fan of John Byrne. But you look at Man of Steel and the stuff that happened from 1987 on up to and including the Zod killing the I don't see Earth 1. I don't see it. I mean, I just don't see it. But
this is where I lay out specific. Okay, to go back a little bit, for those of you know DC the Earth 1 graphic novels, they started I think in 2010, and the first one was Superman Earth 1 Volume 1. They had for Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Teen Titans, and Green Lantern. They had, unfortunately, a very sporadic publication schedule, and they just kind of petered out a few years ago. Really, really annoying. And I could say, like, in the intro here, it's like that's as annoying to me as like the Snyderverse being unresolved, because it's like so much potential. There were so many great comic book stories being told in the Earth 1. And again, ones that were, you can see very influential. Like the Batman was, part of the basis for Matt Reeves' Batman. And Superman Earth 1, again.
Okay.
The story in Earth 1, Superman Clark Kent, keeping under the radar, using his powers very clandestinely. All of a sudden, an alien invasion comes out of nowhere, sends a worldwide broadcast saying, turn the Kryptonian over in 24 hours or we're burning the planet down. He puts on the suit because he's got to step up to the plate. Cataclysmic battle, Superman's revealed to the world. There is no way you can tell me that this is not influential on Man of Steel.
I just never. Well, you know why? Maybe because it's just because I read it back. It just didn't move me back in 2010, and I just can't feel it because I feel all the hallmarks. Maybe that specific, the call. I don't know. I just never got that feel. Some of the other stuff you've brought up, that's not abstract. I'm like, yeah, I got that. This one, I just never felt that connection other than that particular detail.
And there's another thing I pointed, like a more, again, that's like macro detail. And by the way, it's not General Zod. He appears. He's brought in Volume 3 of Superman Earth 1. He's actually in this continuity. He's established as Superman's uncle. But there's a different, they use kind of an original villain. His name is Tyrell. He still is a Kryptonian.
Blade Runner. Somebody Blade Runner fan wrote that shit.
But again, like Kryptonians, massive invasion, broadcasting around the world. give us the Kryptonian, or we are going to burn this planet down till we find him.
I guess
How
so.
can
I
you
just don't
possibly
feel it.
lose it?
I
And
just
again,
think
the fact,
Man of Steel is more of an
the fact,
influence than this ever could be. So
again, the fact it precedes Man of Steel too, like this, by only a few years, and there's also like a couple like more micro details, like I mentioned here, like the whole thing where Jonathan Kent, he takes a fragment of the ship to a metallurgist, and the guy says, "We can't even find this on the periodic table." Again, like I don't know how to make this any clearer. It's like,
haven't we done some of these? Haven't we done DC animation stuff? We did the Dark Knight, we did the Killing. I think we've done some. Which ones? I gotta look back because we've done so much shit that I gotta look back now. Some of the stuff, like that Life for Fighting. Remember when we did Life for Fighting?
Life After Fighting, yeah.
Whatever. Yeah. No, but I can't believe how many people ended up watching that later down the year.
Yeah.
Because remember when you first had it on there, we had a decent showing of it, but in the year, because it came up at the year anniversary, and 1,100 people watched that stream in a year.
I'll tell Brent about it.
Yeah, I meant to tell you that. I'm like, wow, because I refreshed the screen. I'm like, sometimes it gives you. I'm like, no, that's clearly.
Like, Scary Movie got more views, not anymore. Clint, haha.
I have to look. I didn't look at Scary Movie though, so he might have.
But yeah, I know we've done Dark Knight Returns. That's the only one I can name off the top of my. We've also done New Justice League Frontier. Those are the ones I can name off the top of my head. We've done Dark Knight Returns.
That's the best to me. That's the best of the DC. I mean, I it's the only one where I like the arm. I like the way it looks. I like the way it feels. Other ones, Apocalypse War, those are good, but they're not. I like that New Frontier.
And Apocalypse War that came out like 2 weeks before we got Snyder Cut announcement, so that was so perfectly timed because it's again like it's not like an adaptation of anything Zack was doing, but it's very, you could tell like the energy is definitely very like of the same again caliber and wavelength.
We've done it, Jose. We do these. That's literally we haven't done a lot of them lately because I've been really busy. And in fact, if something goes down to this in the next couple of days, I'm going to be way busier than I might not be streaming. If I get certain answers to certain questions and over the next 48 hours, you might not see me in for a couple of weeks because there's something important going down. So yeah, the watch parties have gone by the wayside a little bit. As I get settled in and get a little bit more, there's some things I'm working on, and I can dedicate that kind of time because we generally were doing them on a Saturday, and Saturdays that's the one day. It's like I sometimes we've canceled our overnighter sometimes. One day I had my tourists came back for a weekend, and I had to take advantage of that. So we had to cancel an overnighter a couple weeks ago because of reasons. So. Let me see. I don't mind doing DC animation, especially modern DC animation. The only DC animation I don't want to watch anymore is the stuff from the 90s, and not because I hate it. It's like I said, I've already explained. I don't like the influence.
For me, the Snyderverse, that never really pulled me in. The Snyderverse, I didn't even give that. Yeah, I didn't even give that. But some of the stuff like we've done, like Killing Joke, and we've done Dark Knight. I don't mind. A lot of people didn't. It didn't really definitely read it. Everybody, that's a damn shame because this is Earthworm was some of the best work DC had done in a long time in my book. And Aaron, give a look because again, as I say here, it's like as I said elsewhere, as I would say from the day I die, I am adamant in this. Like Man of Steel, I will go as far as to say that it is Superman Earth 1 the movie.
No, I got you. I just like I said, and I do want to do these because they were fun. It's just I'm trying to work it in because I do want to do it for the channel. I'll work on that. All right, next one.
Okay, next one. Going down here. Now, this is one William is. If there's one on here, I know William is definitely going to be rah and cheerleading for. It's the Absolute Universe. Is it? Do you have what's you have like a fireworks like one you get hit or
something? All I got right now. That's really not much.
So there's no like inverse to the buzzer yet.
Nah, because usually I don't have anything to cheer you on about.
No, that is so tragic because it's like everything I say on here is brilliant.
Yeah, it's bullshit. It's bullshit. But yeah, this is.
If you have watched the Sci-Fi Center for any length of time since late 20, it kicked off in like December, or late 24, right?
Yeah, October of 2024. But I was excited about it months before because we were at Comic-Con.
Yeah.
Well, you know.
Yeah, we were talking about for them, but if you have watched the Sci-Fi Center at all in that amount of time, you have heard William and I both sing the praises of the Absolute Universe to no end, and it's not going to have an end because we both absolutely love this. The Absolute Universe, that you may not know, it's a new offshoot from the mainline continuity. There's another Snyder. This is another Snyderverse, you might say. Scott Snyder of DC Comics, who William has a direct link to the point where he gets these issues, for early before they drop. He gets to read.
I've been promised an interview. I'm still waiting, but we keep.
I guess it's no rush, but yes, this is a alternate continuity from the mainline DC continuity that again just reimagines every character this universe is, it's birthed out of the energy of Darkseid. So the universe itself has an edge and a darkness and a grittier quality to it than the mainline continuity, and to the point where it's like there's no punches pulled. I mean, Batman's carrying an axe and chopping dudes' arms off with it. Superman is he's taking on a kind of like a radical, he's almost got like a Che Guevara with heat vision kind of quality to him.
And the monsters, all the villains, all Batman's villains are something out of a Clive Barker.
Wonder Woman was raised in hell. All the characters are just every character is a reinvention of what we've seen, and reinventions in just really enthralling and just captivating ways. And again, we're still in the midst of it. We still don't even have the full picture of where this is going. We're starting to get a clearer picture of that now because we've got, we finally had Wonder Woman meet Batman. We got, DCKO going. But this is this is obviously going to build a crescendo that we're still kind of waiting to see the full picture of. But the fact that the tone of this definitely is if you are a Zack Snyder fan, you will definitely enjoy the Absolute Universe. I think William and I, we probably would be in agreement on that. Certainly, probably with most people who read Absolute. I think Zack Snyder and Scott Snyder, they approach these characters in very similar ways in that they're both very driven by deconstructionist kind of approaches. They really like taking these characters apart, putting that together, and kind of getting at the core of what makes them tick. And Zack, did it, in the movies, in his own way, and presenting of showing them being challenged in all these different ways, and being placed into a darker world that really, that's beating Batman down. Superman's questioning himself. Wonder Woman's she has this black and white view of good and evil until she leaves Themyscira. And with the Absolute Universe, we have Scott Snyder's doing doing the deconstructionist thing in his own way, where it's these are characters who again are all of them have a chip on their shoulder in their own way, and they're really again their origin stories in a lot of ways are again it's the same but different. Maybe is the kind of a simple but accurate way to put it, where they're reinvented. They have a lot of the core traits that we associate with them, but also they have a lot of new ones. And so again, I feel Scott Snyder is he definitely approaches these characters with a similar mindset as Zack, and with a similar tone. And it's even been mentioned elsewhere. They have thought, Zack and Scott Snyder, they have thought about doing at some point in the last couple of years. I mean, how much traction this has currently, we don't know, but they have talked about doing comic books in Zack's world. We'd love to get those, but until such time as that happens, Scott Snyder's this Snyderverse in DC Comics is one that is ongoing. It's enthralling. It's captivating. It's just an epic read on in every individual book, on all of them collectively. And if you're a fan of the cinematic Snyderverse, you're going to love this comic book Snyderverse. So definitely give it a look if you haven't yet.
All right, well, quick, Anthony Beltre, thoughts on 97 Kingdoms? I'm enjoying it. I mean, I know everything and like I said, there was a shocking thing that night. For those of you who haven't read the book, and didn't know the source material. Obviously, something happens tonight that was, a lot of people are talking about. I knew it because that tournament, that Battle of the Seven, the Trial of the Seven, was a famous part in Hedge Night, which is where this comes from. I don't like it as much as I do like House of Dragon or Game of Thrones, but I like it enough to continue to watch it. And so far, they've kept this, right along with Hedge Night, is right down to everything that you've seen happen. And I guess its season finale is next week. Everything that you've seen happen on the screen has happened in the book, which is rare for Game of Thrones. Sometimes they take their liberties with it, especially with Game of Thrones, because the season 4 went beyond. Once you were done with season 4, you were done with the book. So they did another 4 years off the grid and did whatever they want to. This is, I don't know how long this is going to last. It does have the Game of Thrones feel to it, but I would put it after the OG Game of Thrones and behind House of Dragon, which we should be getting later on this year. But I'm having fun with it, though. I am a Game of Thrones addict, so yeah, I'm enjoying it. All right, go ahead and get your next one. Or your last one, actually.
All righty. And last but not least, on the 10 comic books to read if you miss the Snyderverse feelings, Justice League. Come back up. Justice League: The Dark Side War. Now, again, this is a war based on what we kind of know about the the dark side conflict in the movies that's on the whiteboards that Zach went to. It isn't necessarily like a 1-to-1, but again, it's mostly in terms of like the scale of it, and again the fact that Darkseid's the villain, and it's just this really kind of this cataclysmic, like just fate of the whole world kind of battle against Darkseid sort of story. It's like this one kind of like similar to Final Crisis and New 52, to see these comic book stories that really kind of capture the kind of villain Darkseid is, the the cosmic level threat that he is, and how Zach intended to utilize him. I think this is not one that really encapsulates that well. So again, nothing specific in the story that for what we know about the plans to the Justice League finale that really kind of lines up directly. But again, Darkseid War, I mean, the finale is a Darkseid War. So you want to see that in comic book form, there you go. So definitely give it a read if you haven't. And that is all the 10 comic book stories to read to miss the Snyderverse feelings. These are my recommendations. Not necessarily all of them Williams, but
yeah, some of these some of these. This is Brad's list. This would not be mine. Some of the stuff he's got on there are definitely, like this one is definitely going to be the Wonder Woman. There are certain ones that are definitely on there. Certain ones that are definitely that had influence that I wish they hadn't that are on there that are fine. But yeah, this would not be my list. Maybe I'll come up with one later on.
Go up here a little bit. I knew, like, I knew like this one is like when we got this one, it's like, yeah, this is probably the one Williams. Even though it's like this is coming, after this is not influencing the movies, but again, this is one I feel like this is the one Williams going to like the most, because again, they're aside from absolutely DC being the phenomenon that it is. Again, the two Snyders are on a similar wavelength with how they approach the core Justice League characters.
All right, Rational Skeptic. Yeah, listen, fuck this guy at this point. He's not. He's been writing this book. Okay, so Game of Thrones season 4, which was the last season that was encompassed by the books, aired in the final episode aired in June of 2014. That was 12 years ago. I could have wrote this shit with my feet in 12 years. So I don't know. When I hear him say this, I'm like, sure. And I don't care anymore, to be honest with you. The show went for the most part in a place that I wanted the show to go. Like the Jon Snow stuff, that was not in the book, and the stuff that he was writing when it was in regards to a certain character was not what I wanted to see. So what they came up with the show, I'm done with it. He never writes anything again. I'm fine. But yeah, he's had 12 years. I don't give a fuck about
what I feel like he might, because this is what I would do. Is like I just like the most Andy Kaufman like style troll somebody could do. It's like he secretly has them completely written, and he has to like in his will he's going to leave your release posthumously. It's like I can almost see that. Like
the problem is Game of Thrones, and it is the TV show. Game of Thrones, nobody fucking cares about the books. Yeah, some of us did, but in regards to the show, you found that out tonight because what happens at the end of that show, it's been in the books for over 20 years now. It's been in the books for 20 years now. There's a certain character that goes, and everybody was kind of liking that goes, and I could have told you as soon as I saw him. I'm like, okay, I know exactly when you're going to go because I read it. But the majority of us have not read those books. So I don't need anything else from George R.R. Martin. Now, William, were you a fan? No, once I found out that it was going to be the next big show, that's when I read them. And I read them all pretty quick. They're quick reads. And they're point of view stories, so you can really move around. So I like the show way better than I like the books. I'm always going to prefer the visual media, but yeah, I became a fan of the books in a certain way, but not if you held a gun to my head. I'm going to always pick the show over the books.
Well,
right.
Here's your thought. I don't know if you guys missed as much when I was talking.
Go ahead and take that down now because it's messing with your internet.
Again, this one I kind of knew was going to be like the big wild.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I've seen that happen on other streams, by the way.
Like,
go ahead.
When you scroll through an article, okay. But
yeah.
I'm curious your thoughts on with Daredevil Born Again on there because I knew like that was the one I kind of expect to be like the wild card for a lot of people.
Well, you justified it. You justified it with the potential of what was going to happen in the Ben Affleck movie. So I could see where but the only reason that it's a wild card is because we have never gotten that. So it's really hard to see what the kind of inspiration may have been. So
well,
how it would have been fleshed out.
And the other thing too is, a lot of like, because Ben, for everybody like is adamant that we will never see him in the towel again. He was adamant he was done with superheroes after Daredevil. All respect.
I never believe that. Listen, I never believe actors when they talk in the moment. They may be telling the truth. Opportunity creates things. Opportunity creates things. So just leave that out there.
But that's where I kind of also made the connection with Born Again, where it's against like he had previously been Daredevil, didn't like how that turned out. There's actually rumors he might be Daredevil in Secret Wars now, which that'd be amazing. Imagine that happened.
Kind of lame, but I fully expect him to be there.
Yeah, it would not at all surprise me. Even when they say like in Deadpool Wolverine, like he was killed in the boy, it's like, yeah, if they can find a way to bring it back, they'll bring it back. But
all those people were variants though, so yeah. They could all come back.
He could be absolutely. He might have as a variant in the yellow suit, or like in the blind ninja suit. But
oh god,
I think like they were. Warner Bros. Was trying to persuade it. They tried to persuade him to do Justice League before Zack even came aboard for Man of Steel. I think they even actually ran Man of Steel by Ben too. And he was like, again, after Daredevil, he was very adamant. Yeah, I'm done with superheroes. It was Zack who pulled it back in. And I think a lot of what what we know about his Batman movie is again, the fact that he wanted to direct it and just the story as it unfolded. A lot of that is also colored by his experience playing Daredevil, and up to the point where he's like, it seemed like he drew heavily off of a well-known Daredevil story, which is, that's really, I actually wrote one when I was a screenwriter where I thought this is the first time I've written about that angle. I'm not the first person to make this comparison either. But I thought about like, his Batman movie also kind of represented like, maybe in his mind, kind of like some Daredevil redemption. Like, okay, this is like, I'm doing like a Batman movie with a Daredevil story, and it's after my Daredevil experience didn't kind of pan out the way I wanted it to. So
that's one of the loosest connections, but I got it.
Oh yeah!
All right, guys.
Speaking of Born Again, we're getting close.
Yeah, we'll be doing that. We'll plan for that. All right, guys. That's pretty much it. That's all I got. Like, subscribe, and what do you think of Brad's list? Be respectful. Don't be a douchebag. I really don't feel like deleting your comments if they don't lead anywhere. So, being serious here, what did you think of his list? It's not a conversation of whether how you feel about the Snyderverse. What do you think of the stories that he listed? And that's really, at that point, because we want to hear from you. Like, subscribe, and share the stream. Continue to grow the gospel as slowly as we need to. I'm not in any major rush, but I'd like to get there someday. I don't know what my schedule is going to be, guys. I am having some meetings this week in regards to the center itself. And if those meetings go well, I'm going to be occupied for a good part of the next 2 weeks.
Well, and
I will not be
like moving downstairs.
Yeah, if that gets approved, I don't know if they're going to be in office tomorrow because it's President's Day. But if that gets approved and I get keys, I'm going to immediately enact that. It's 100 feet away. It's not to be, and I'm going to have to assemble a crew to help me get this done because I want to be back open within 7 days. That's my goal.
Yeah.
So, all right, guys, that is it for tonight. Go get some sleep. Go get some food. And get ready for another week.
And if you can, tag Zack Snyder on social media in this video, because I'd love for him to get kind of like watching. And if he feels like doing his social media pot stirring, like say, okay, Brad, you're right about this and this and this and this and this. The connection you made there, but here's something you missed and all that. It's like, that'd be cool to see.
Yeah, probably won't happen, but hey, who knows? All right, guys. Have a nice night. Have a nice morning for all of you. We're all in Monday, the 16th now. See you when I see you.
See you guys.